The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this week. My name is Tanya, and I'm the marketing manager over here at StrucSoft Solutions. So just for those of you who are new with us today, our STAR solution MWF, which stands for Metal Wood Framer, is our Revit-based BIM framing solution that allows users to automate Revit walls, floors, ceilings, and trusses in light gauge steel and also in wood. So today our technician Aparna will be covering template mapping and edit tools in MWF, including how to use single layer template maps and how to use edit operations, like adding, deleting, moving members, reference planes, and more. Just before we get going, I'd like to remind everyone that at the end of the webinar, we'll be taking a couple of live questions. In order to be selected, please press the raise hand button on the dashboard. Just please also make sure that your mic is working correctly. If you'd prefer, you can also ask questions throughout the webinar in the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to hand off to Aparna now.
Hi everyone, my name is Aparna Bhatia, and today we're going to discuss template mapping and edit tools. So a few of the tools we're going to discuss today are adding structural members and additional members, and I'll give you a brief summary of what's the difference in between those two as well. We'll also cover template mapping, and we're going to cover adding member clearances. So if you have a structural structural column in your that's going through your panel, maybe you have an HSS, you could add a member clearance to that member. So I'll show you how to do that, and we're going to show you how to delete generated members, along with aligning and cutting members to reference planes. So let's get started. So here I have projects. So I've drawn out all of my walls. I have placed them in the project, and this is basically my layout, and now I want to start framing, right? So the layouts are complete. Now I want to start framing. So in order for me to start framing, I'm going to need to create some template maps. How do I know which walls I need to add for the template mapping? It's pretty simple. We'll create a wall schedule. To create a wall schedule, first thing we're going to do is go to right-click on Schedules and Quantities. We're going to create a new schedule, and we can just scroll down or click within this category dialog and type in W. It'll take you to walls, and you can create a wall schedule. All right. Since I already have one, I won't be doing that. And once I get into the wall schedule, I can basically take a look at all of the walls that I have created. So in here, I've added a few fields. So I've added the type field, so I know exactly which type of wall I would like to map my templates to. I have the width field, or the width parameter, I would say, the structural material that's being applied to the structural layer of that wall, the function of that wall. Maybe you want to sort it according to its function, or you have different templates assigned for each function, like structural usage. Maybe you want to use that to separate your templates, and so on and so forth. So these are just a few elements I like to use to manage the walls in my project. But in our case, I just want to figure out which walls I need to add to the template map so I can create the framing for them, right? So these are all the walls that are currently used in my project. That's the benefit of creating a wall schedule. You will see everything that's currently in your project, right? So here you can see that we have a few masonry walls. We have a few wood stud walls. So I'm not really going to be creating any framing for the masonry walls. They're just concrete block walls. And then I have exterior brick, so I will need an exterior template. I will need a few interior templates for the wood wall, and I also need one for the tile interior wall, right? So these two have a similar structure, except one of them has a tile on the inside edge of or inside face of the wall, basically. And then the third template I need is a chase wall, okay? So let's go back to our plans and draw out those walls. So I have them drawn out here. You can see that I have also dimensioned the structural layers of each of these walls. So here I have the brick wall or exterior brick wall. Here I have the interior wood wall, and then I have the interior wood with tile, and then I have the chase wall, okay? So I have all of these walls dimensions, and let's get started on, creating our walls. So let's go to NWF over here. So once I've placed out my walls, I can go to template map. So the other thing you have to also make sure is that you have the templates that you require, that you need to assign to these walls. You have to make sure that the templates are added to the project in the first place, okay? So if you've already created your templates, great. We'll just assign them within the template map. If you haven't created your templates, or if you haven't imported them from another project, you'll need to have those imported first, and then we can move on with creating a template map. So by default, whenever you open template map, it comes up comes up with the dialog box like this. There's nothing populated, and that's okay. I typically don't like to populate the default. I like to leave the default as the default. And then I usually add in my own. So this is the end result. So we'll just recreate something similar to this, okay? So I'm gonna, there's a few options in template mapping. So you can create a new template map. So if you're structural engineers, or if you're a structural engineering consultancy, and you know that you're gonna be designing for multiple zones and multiple tiers, you can actually create template maps for each tier. So maybe tier 1 might not need extra horizontals or backing, or horizontal studs in the middle of the panel, but maybe your tier 5 or zone 5 wall types might actually require something that's a lot more sturdy, and it might need different types of framing, basically, right? So you can actually create template maps for each of those tiers and zones. So you could save all of these template maps in your office templates, or like your NWF office templates, your Revit office templates, and then you can use the same Revit template for multiple types of projects. So if you have a commercial project, you have a residential project, you can use all of them in here, or you can use the same template for all of them, basically. So I'm going to create a new template map, and this project is called Atlas Apartments, so I'm just going to call it Atlas Apartments. Okay, and we'll leave it at that. So we'll go into Atlas Apartments, and you can see it's nice and empty. The other thing you can also do with the template maps is you can rename them. So if you wanted to rename them and say, no, I don't want it to be Atlas Apartments, I just want it to be apartments, I can do that if I would like. If I wanted to delete the template map, no longer need it, I can easily delete that with that button. I can export my template maps. So maybe you're copying walls from one project to another, and you're like, I only care about the zone 5 template maps, so I'm just going to copy those zone 5 template maps and put it in the other project. So I can use the export command and export the templates template map wherever I would like to export it to. So before you export the template map, if you noticed in one of the webinars we did previously, you have to export all of your templates first, and then import them into your new project prior to importing any type of mapping or any sort of map, okay? So there is a method to the madness, and basically we just need to import all of our templates prior to importing the map, and you should be okay. You will not get any errors, basically. So you have that option to export, and then if you wanted to import any maps, you could just click on the import button and it'll let you import it, right? So now let's create a map. So we have a nice little blank project here. We want to create some maps. There's a few options for creation. You can either add elements manually like this, like I can just hit the add button here. I can also delete that template if I would like. I can also rearrange my templates if I would like, right? So if maybe I want to organize it all by 2-inch walls first, 4-inch walls second, 6-inch walls third, and 8-inch walls fourth. I can actually move the walls up and down accordingly, all right? So that's what the two arrows are for, to organize your type maps, basically. So that is that over there. And then we also have the option to populate your template maps using fill table by structural layer thickness. So we can click that option, and over here you can choose what thickness you would like. So maybe I want to create a template map for that, okay? And I want to say that, okay, you are going to be 2x6 with flat header, okay? If I hit add batch, what it does is it will find all walls that have that structural layer thickness and import it into the mapping, right? So, and it will also apply the template that you've specified here. So that's another way to do it. So for me, it already added 2 of the walls that I needed it to add. So now I'm going to go in and add in maybe, let's say, the 8-inch wall that I have here, and I'm going to add in another template maybe for it. So let's say this is going to maybe be the chase wall, so I'll add in the chase wall template for it. But you see now I have added the chase wall template for multiple different walls that I don't really need to add it for. Like the generic masonry wall, I don't really need to add any templates to that, right? Because I don't want to frame that one. So I probably have to delete those extra walls that I have. So for us, what I will do is I'll manually create all of our templates, okay? So we're gonna add, we have 4 walls here, so I drew out the 4 walls that I saw in my schedule. I'm gonna just add those 1, 2, 3, 4 walls here. And then I'm gonna select the walls that I know need to be framed. So that's the wood stud wall here. Typically your project should be cleaned out and probably not have any metal studs in here. But if you are using the same template for maybe a steel project and a wood project, and you have the different wall types for both, it's not a big deal. It's just, you just have to be mindful when you select your wall types, all right? So we have the exterior brick on wood studs, and then we have our interior OA6 wood wall. Then we have the one with the tiles, and then we have our chase. So typically, if you are importing your templates from another project, especially chase wall templates, if you're importing them from another project, chase wall templates typically need to be assigned to a benchmark or a reference plane, right? So if you have not imported those reference planes and you've not imported those benchmarks into this project as well, then you have to recreate the new benchmarks, and then you have to recreate that template as well, okay? So let's assign our templates first. So we have a wood exterior template for the brick on wood stud because it's a 7 1/4, so that one should be good. And then we have for our light gauge template, sorry, not a light gauge, I mean for wood walls, we have our interior wood template. So we'll use the 6-inch template there, and another 6-inch template here because the structural layers are exactly the same. And then for the chase wall, we're going to use the we're going to use the double 6-inch chase wall template. All right. Now I have the option to lock all of these panels to the templates, and you can definitely lock them. So if you lock the panels to the template, it's similar to like multi-layer when you go to properties and it's locked to that template. So if you lock it to the template, what it will do is it won't let you modify that wall unless you, like if you wanted to fix anything about that wall, you have to unlock that wall first and then apply the templates or fix up the template however you would like, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the exterior with template, but the rest of them I'm going to leave them unlocked, okay? So now that I have set up all of these, I can now go and double check. Now I can just double check if my work paid off, right? So I did all the mapping. I'm going to select all the walls. I know for sure that the chase wall is going to error out, but I'm still going to try it out and see if it lets me do it, right? So let's go to MWF and we are just going to hit quick create. Give it a quick second. So there you go. This is the error I was waiting for, and it says that it's applied, it's the error related to the chase wall. And it is because you'll notice that it says, hey, the user specified benchmark TBM1 has not been found. And then over here, user specified benchmark TBM1 has not been found. Okay. So that basically means it can't create the structural layer because the structural member, the value specified in the structural members is not valid right now. So can't find a benchmark. So now I gotta go and create my own template, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on this guy, and I'm actually gonna see if my structural layer thickness is okay to fit with the largest, with the studs that I need to place in there, right? Let me just quickly do that. So I think the largest stud I have in here, and the reason I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that my end studs actually fit within the wall thickness. And if you didn't do that work in the past, then you'll have to basically do it now. But we can play around with it a little later. I just want to double check. Dimensional number column, I have that one, but I want to check the M, and there we go. 337 is there, and there's 184. All right, so 184 should pretty much fit in an 8-inch wall, but probably that 8-inch needs to be 7 1/4. But we can take a look at that shortly. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, select the wall, come here, go to NWF tab, and then click on create. Since the quick create didn't work, I have to just double check my templates, right? So I'm going to just see if it will allow me to place the chase wall template just like that. I know it won't because we don't have our benchmarks, but I just wanted to double check. All right. So now what we have to do is recreate our chase walls. So instead of recreating our chase walls just for this location, I want the chase walls to use a central location as their guide to align the studs, okay? So the center of my building is here, the middle of the door and the middle of that wall there. So you can see we already have like a reference plane there. So we can probably like extend that reference plane down, and then we can probably create similar, cancel, and I'm going to place it from the door to the door. Okay, that's the middle of my building. Typically you would have central line grids, but I currently don't in this project, so I'm just going to use reference planes. All right, so these reference planes are great for my first benchmark. What about my second benchmark? Because I need these chase walls to be staggered, right? So how am I going to place my second benchmark? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this reference plane. You can choose if you want to go left, right, or top, bottom. So I'm going to go to the right. So I'm going to make it all positive. So I'll go 8 inches to the right because I want them to be 16 inches on center and I want them to be staggered. So if I want them to be staggered, the even distance would be 8 inches. So again, I'll take the reference plane here and I'll copy and move it up. And the reason I'm creating 2 of them is because I have chase walls that are going in this direction. I have chase walls going in that direction, right? So I have it going north-south, and then I have them going east-west. So now I'm going to create my 2 benchmarks at this corner and this corner, okay? So what I'm going to do is go to NWF, go to markers, and then I am going to benchmark by selecting points. And over here, I'll select the default benchmark, and I'll call it TBM as my prefix because that was what was similar to the other one. And I'll call it 1. I'll start with 1, okay? So I'll select and I'll place TBM1 here. And I'm again going to click and place my second one over there, okay? So that called itself TBM2. So now I have the option, since the other benchmarks, since the other template already had those benchmarks specified, Now I can just test out my quick create again and see if that existing template will still work because I named my benchmarks exactly the same. And there you go. It detected that template, it detected the benchmarks, and it actually placed the studs accordingly. So it placed them staggered, and it placed one on the exterior side and one on the interior side, and they all look pretty decent, except for this end stud. So that means I did not draw my walls are probably not the same size as what was specified in the other project, right? So what I can probably do is either double check if I'm supposed to use the same template, or maybe change my end studs and my top and bottom tracks, because you can see that that's my T-bot, so that's my bottom track right there that's sticking out of the panel. So I will just need to double check that template, and then once I double check that template, I can save it over top of the existing one. So for now, what I'm going to do is let's go into the wall. Let's make it fit in a little way. So what we're going to do here is okay. What we're going to do here is we're going to make this wall fit 337 millimeter stud. I know that's a random number, but this is what ends up happening when you have your studs are in metric, but then all of your the whole project is drawn in imperial. And we do have cases like this that have happened sometimes. So typically, if you have your own office templates and you're not grabbing from one project and putting it in another, you should not have this issue. But if you do have this issue, you can either switch your project to be metric because all of your families are metric. It's easier to do that. But even if you have millimeter dimensions, Revit is pretty helpful in converting those dimensions for you automatically. All right, so I'm just going to convert this wall to this new dimension, and I'm going to hit OK, and you'll notice that the wall got nice and big. What I'm going to do also now is regenerate this wall. So you see this wall template, this wall was not locked to the template. So you'll notice that I could regenerate it pretty easily, all right? So now if I come to this exterior wall, I think this one was the one that we locked to the template, correct? So let's go template map. Yep, that was locked to template. So I can probably regenerate this wall, fine. But I don't think I'll be able to delete this. I will be able to delete it, okay. Okay, but I don't think I can modify the properties. Yeah, there you go. That's what I was waiting for. So you can, it's telling you that panel 10 is locked to a template, and it's telling you exactly which template it's locked to. Okay, so if you wanted to modify panel 10, you either A, have to unlock the template or unlock it from the template, or B, you have to change that actual template. But remember, if you change the template, wherever that template is, whichever wall is locked to that template, will also need to get regenerated to have all of those changes apply. Okay, so if you just want to do a one-off change, I would unlock the wall from the template. And to do that, you just have to go to the edits and lock/unlock panel to panel template, and you can basically just click unlock, or you can choose another template you want to lock it to. Okay, so I'm just going to unlock it and say okay. And now you will notice that I can actually go into the properties and fix whatever I need to fix. All right, so that's basically how you would do template mapping. So I typically like to have like the walls that are drawn in the project on the side here so that I have something for reference. If I ever want to change a template and all of my walls are locked to template, these are the ones that are not locked to the template, they're unlocked. And if I ever need to modify it, like maybe add a horizontal to this panel or this template, then I can add a horizontal, save it as the updated template. So I can go to properties, template. Say if I wanted to update the exterior template, I can update the template. Once I update it and apply it to this one, I can go back here, wherever that template has been applied, I'll just regenerate all the walls. And whatever changes I've done to the template here, will apply to all of the walls that the template could apply to, right? So I don't have to worry about, oh, did I made this change? Did it apply everywhere? Like, I don't know. If it's locked to the template, you just have to regenerate all the walls and it will apply to it will change the panel according to the updated template, basically. So that's the benefit of using template mapping, okay? And then I just wanted to show you a few edit tools. So since your panels are kind of locked to the template, you might need to use some edit tools to add to the panels, right? Like you don't want to completely disconnect it from the template. You still want it to follow those rules, but there are certain things, sometimes like since you're using a template that is default for everything, certain areas might need some love and you might want to add some extra members as an example. So I have a few walls here. I'm going to use the wonderful tool to go to MWF, and all I'm going to do is click create because we set up our template map, right? So now we can go and click create. And while we're waiting for this to happen, if you do have any questions, please go ahead and type them up in the questions bar below. All right, so now that we wonderfully quick created all of our walls, you can see that it actually framed my openings as well. So if I had any markers assigned to them, it would automatically read those markers and frame the openings according to that. All right, so let's just make the scale for this a little smaller, just so that we can go through them faster. And I also will get rid of the box visibility for the panel labels. There you go. All right. So now we want to add structural members. So you might want to add structural members for multiple reasons. You might want to add bracing or blocking, and you might not know exactly which tool to use. Or maybe you just want to, your studs are being placed in this way, but there's actually a joist that goes right above here. So you don't want to mess with the spacing, but you just want some support over here maybe. You could actually copy the existing stud that we have here, just using Revit copy, place the stud there. And then what you could do is you could click on the stud, and now we can try to add it to the panels, right? Or add it to the panel. So what I can do is I can go to MWF or Suite, and then I can go to Edits, and I can use the Add Structural Members, okay? So what's the difference between Add Structural Members and Add Extra Members? So Add Structural Members is, I'll show you the options that we have in Add Structural Members. So first thing I'll do is select the member I want to add. I'll click on the member, click on a member of the panel that I want to add it to, and then I'll hit the Escape key. Once I hit the Escape key, it gives me a few options for the description of what I'm adding, okay? So I might adding a vertical stud, in our case, yes. I might want adding a horizontal stud. Maybe if I would choose that option. Maybe I was adding a cripple, or maybe I was adding a diagonal brace, a front sheet for sheathing, back sheet for sheathing, maybe angle header, or a plate or a stud brace, okay? So I could be adding any one of these, and this is why it's adding structural members, okay? They all get a specific tag, and they're all priority members. So when I say priority members, there's a priority sequence. If a king stud clashes with a regular stud, the king stud will take precedence, right? So it will delete the additional stud that got created and replace it with the king stud, because the king stud is in the same location. So that is, especially when you validate members, it's important if you set it up, if you add a structural member versus adding an extra member. So in this case, you'll see these are the members you would add when you're adding a structural member, okay? So in our case, we're gonna go with vertical stud, and we're just gonna add that. So the tag is also important, especially when you're creating whole series. Maybe you wanted to penetrate through specific types of tags only. So maybe you only wanted to want the whole series to cut through your vertical studs, but not your end studs. Okay, so even though this is a vertical stud, it's an end vertical, but it's an EV tag, or the description of it is EV. So what that basically means that it is a vertical stud, but it is an end vertical stud. So I have the option to not punch or punch a hole in my end studs, basically. Like if you have a horizontal going through your panel, you could probably punch holes through the steel members, and but you probably will need to punch that hole through your end members because you wanted to start from here and there, kind of thing, right? So little things like that. So it matters what you tag your members, and you'll notice that when I do add structural members, it's actually pinning the element. So what that means is I can come here and go, let's regenerate our wall. Okay, so once it regenerates, you'll notice that it retains that member in that same location. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, adding additional members. So when you're adding additional members, I could technically be adding exactly the same thing. I could take this and go like, oh, let's add another stud here to the panel, right? So I'm going to go to edits. I'm going to add extra members. I'll select the panel that I want to add it to. So I'll select a member. I'll hit escape. And then here you go. So when you have add panel members open up, you again have to describe your tag. So now in this case, when you're adding extra members, you can add elements like equipment. You could add elements like a backing member, a connector member, a hole symbol, stud opening, or basically a punch up, or hole down. You want to add a shear wall maybe. And all of these are basically extra members because when I run the validate command and I'm basically adding a clip to a panel as an example. That would basically be the prime example for this. So if I was adding a clip to a panel, or maybe my lifting clip to the panel as an example. So if I was adding those members, those little members, I could treat it as a connector member. And even if it's clashing against, like say my top track or my stud, what I could basically do is I can just say that, okay, even though it's clashing, even though validate members is turned on, since I've specified it to be extra member or like a connector member, it's not going to delete the members because in priority sequence wise, that member has no priority. It's just attaching elements together. So technically, if it clashes against it or it's touching the member, it should still be okay because it is meant to touch the member. It's meant to be attached to a stud and attached to a top track, for example, right? So if you're ever adding clips and you get errors as to like cannot place clip or cannot place this or cannot place that, it's because you have not set it up as an extra member and you might have set it up as a structural member or added it as a structural member, you're getting all these errors. So if you did set it up as a connector member, you would probably, it would actually work and it won't give you those errors that this member is clashing with that, so we deleted this member. If you did add it as a structural member, your clip probably would not take precedence, so it will probably get deleted. So yeah, in this case, if I wanted to add it as a connector member, for example, I could add it as a backing member, or I can just choose something that's called manually added, and it will get a tag based on what I've selected. I'll just select a connector member and say add. And you'll notice that if I come here and click it, it still says SV, and that's totally fine because it's still considering it a vertical member. But if you added it as a connector member and it was a clip, it would actually say, it'll say either O clip or it will say CRC clip sometimes. It all depends on the member you're adding. All right, so that's adding additional members or adding extra members. So that's the big difference, okay? So if you're adding clips, use extra members. If you're adding actual structural members to your panel, add structural members. And this same thing happens to both of them. They get pinned and they don't go anywhere. So if your panel does move, you actually have to remember to unpin this and move it with the panel and then repin it back, because it's not going to move with your panel because of Revit. Revit pinned elements cannot be moved, right? So that's the benefit of using add structural and add extra. Now let's move on to member clearance. So say we have a panel like this, and we have maybe a stub that is connecting our floor to the wall, or maybe we have a stub column there, and since the stub column kind of goes through the top track of the wall, we actually need to cut the top track. Okay, so that's when you would use add member clearance. So when we're using add member clearance, what we can do is we can select the member that we want to add the clearance at. And then what we can do is we can say, all right, so that's the member. Either we can add that to our panels if we want it, that's totally fine. But if we don't want to add it to the panel, we just want to use the member to provide clearance, you can just do that as well. So this one, right now, you can see none of the values are populated. It's not a part of the panel. I'm just going to click on edit. And then I'm going to add a member clearance, okay? So I'm going to click on the member, click on edit, click on add member clearance. And now it's telling me pick a panel that you want to add the member clearance to. So I'm going to pick this panel because that's the one I want to add the member clearance to. So, and then I'll hit escape. And when I hit escape, this little dialog box pops up. I can specify what's the track clearance I want, okay? I can specify that I want to cut both tracks. But if I'm only creating a little mini stub at the top, I can just say, I only want to cut the top track. I don't want to cut the bottom track, maybe. I just want to cut the top track. In our case, the column's actually going through the whole wall. So we'll probably just do both and see what happens. I can actually specify a track cutback if I wanted to. In this case, I'm not going to. I just want to see how it provides the clearance, right? So we're going to do that. And then there's also the option to fix stud spacing on clash. And I'll just say that, okay, if there is a clash, then I want you to move the stud over by 3 inches. Oops, several inches, there we go. 3 inches, and that's it. So if I did select any one from the top track or the bottom track, I can choose to keep the bottom track to be continuous, okay? If I don't choose that, then it will automatically cut through the entire track. Or cut through the bottom track. But if I choose top tracks, I can choose if I want to cut the bottom one or keep it continuous, okay? Or split the bottom one or keep it continuous. All right, so I'm gonna just do both, and then I'm gonna fix stud spacing on clash, and I'll hit OK. And it actually tells you need to regenerate the panel. So I'm like, okay, that's good. I will go and regenerate the panel. And there you go. So over here, the stud was clashing, so it moved the stud over. Another thing we can do is go check this out in 3D. And you can see that our column's going all the way through, and in 3D, you can see that this is actually being cut back. If we actually wanted it to go to the web, we have the options to specify a value for it to extend into the member instead of, get cut back. So you could always specify those values in there. But you'll notice that it cut the top and bottom track, and it also rearranged my stud spacing from the clearances, okay? Just because it clashed with it. So that's the benefit of using add member clearance. If the member moves, the clearance still remains. All you have to do is regenerate the panel, all right? So that is how add member clearance works. The next one is delete generated member. So over here, you can see that there's like way too many kings and jacks going on. So maybe if this opening was, maybe they decided that, hey, this opening cannot be here anymore. Maybe we need to move it over by a whole stud, as an example. Okay, that's fine. I can just regenerate the panel. But something happened here and that did not work out very well. So we might have to, redo that. So let's undo, and see how we can fix this issue, right? So over here, we have like triple studs. We have too many studs here. So maybe we want to get rid of only one stud in this location, or we probably want to just get rid of this guy here because this looks too, too congested, I would say. So let's get rid of this wonderful stud here. It did nothing, but we just don't want it in that location. So what we could do is we come here. We could go to Pro Suite, and then I can go to Edit, and I can use this button called Delete, or this tool called Delete Generated Member. So I'll click on Delete Generated Member, and there you go. Like magic, it just disappears, right? So I can actually regenerate this panel as many times as I want. Since I've chosen to delete that member, it will actually no longer be there, right? Sometimes you'll notice that it creates like a ghost member and then it deletes it automatically. It's because it ran the tool to create the panel first, and then it ran the tool to delete it, because I did that deletion as a post processing, right? So you'll sometimes see the ghost and then it'll disappear automatically, okay? So don't worry about it. So that's one way to delete generated member. Now I deleted the member, but what if I want to bring it back, right? Like you saw, I regenerated and it didn't come back. So how do I bring that generated member back? I can click on the panel and I can go to properties. All right, so I can go to properties and then I can go to edits. And over here, you'll see that it says delete by label S5. So I deleted the member S5. So what I can do is I can click on this little square here and then just use my keyboard delete. And now if I hit OK, my deleted member came back to life, okay? So I'm just gonna go back and say, no, we don't need you right now, so we'll just delete you again. But that's how you will bring it back to the panel if you don't want to, no longer want to delete it, okay? All right, so now we are going to show you how to align member to reference plane. So say, for example, you might have like a joist that's located maybe right here, and our studs are supposed to be under this joist, and we want to align it to the floor joist above, right? So we have this reference plane placed at the center point of the joist, and we want to be able to have a stud under it. So I don't want to move the spacing for everything. If you wanted to do that, then we would have to create a benchmark, which is totally fine too. But I don't want to really move the spacing for everything, but instead I just want to move that one stud. Sometimes it's like at the pretty close to like an existing stud that already is there, and we just want to kind of shift it over. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the member we want to align to the reference plane. Well, we're going to make sure that we have a reference plane first. So once we have those two options available, we're going to click the member that we want to move. We'll hit the edit one. And then we have this tool called align member to reference plane. So we'll align that member to this reference plane. You can choose what sides you want to align. You want to align the opposite side, the facing side, or the center. Typically, I like to do center. It's just easier that way. And we'll hit OK. And that's it. You have moved that one stud over, okay? Obviously, this messes with your maximum spacing, so maybe the engineers might give you or let you know that, hey, maybe that stud needs to be doubled, as an example. Then you can move the doubled stud, basically. Okay, so that's how you would align members to reference plane. Now we come to a tool that's called Cut Member to Reference Plane. Not a lot of people know about this tool. It's actually a pretty cool tool. So let's go to the section view of this panel. And you'll notice that I already have one reference plane here. I'm also going to make this a fine view. There you go. So you'll notice that I have one reference plane already created based on that joist, align joist that we did right now. And another thing I want to do, or usually when you would use this tool, is maybe you have some mechanical equipment that's being hung from the floor framing above, and it's just sitting in this little corner of the wall. You could probably place an opening to get the framing to do exactly what you want, but maybe the framing that's holding up the mechanical equipment is enough for you to support your panel, and you might just attach it to that mechanical equipment's framing. Just as an example, not necessarily it's exactly like that, but you have that option, right? So I'm going to create another reference plane that I'm going to place over here. So maybe the mechanical equipment just goes and sits right up to here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use these two reference planes to cut our studs, and I will cut our track, okay? So I'm going to select the studs first. So I'll select 1, 2, and 3. And then I'll go to MWF, Edits, and I'll say Cut Member by Reference Plane. So I'll click on that option. And then I'll click on Add Reference Plane. And I'll click the reference plane that I want to add, and I'll hit OK. So there you go. It basically cuts my members shorter, and it lets me place my equipment there. But this top track is still in the way, so let's do that for this guy too. So we'll click on it. We'll click on MWF. We'll click on Edit. And then we'll click on Cut Member by Reference Plane. And we'll click on Add Reference Plane. We'll select the reference plane, and we'll hit OK. Invalid angle. Okay. Okay. No? Okay, it doesn't like the reference plane. So how about this, right? We're going to create another reference plane because this one's not working for us right now. Maybe I actually angled it in a different way. So let's create, let's go to our section, and we'll just create another reference plane in here. So maybe we want to cut it right over here, or maybe we want to cut it just to be flush to that edge there, so that, you know, we have some support for that track to end, and we don't have a cantilever track. So we could actually do that, and then again select the member you want to cut, select edits, and then cut member by reference plane. Add a reference plane, this one, and hit OK. There you go. So we basically now have created an area for MEP to place their elements. The architectural wall is still exactly the way it is, but at least this way they can place their equipment there. Maybe you want to add an extra member underneath here. You have that option as well by using Add Structural Members. All right. So I think we covered everything in here. All right. I guess that's it for today's webinar. Tanya, you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Aparna. So we have a couple minutes to answer some live questions if they come through. I'd just like to remind everyone that in order to pose a question live, please raise your hand now by clicking on the hand icon in the control panel. Just please also make sure that your audio is working correctly. And just while we wait for any potential questions to come through, just like to say that the recording of the presentation will be sent through tomorrow. As always, please feel free to share the recording with any colleagues. And if you're looking for the recording a little earlier, you can usually find it at the end of the day across our social media channels. So we'll just give it another couple of seconds. All right, well, that looks like that's a wrap for today. For any questions that have been submitted through the chat, we'll make sure to get back to you as soon as possible by email. And if you'd like to set up a one-on-one demonstration, or if you have any follow-up questions after we've closed the session, we highly encourage you to reach out to us. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording tomorrow. All right, well, that's now our wrap. We'll now be ending the webinar. Thank you, Aparna, and thank you to everyone who registered. Have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone.